For today's open channel, I'd like to do a bit of an update and follow up from last week's episode, where I was wrestling with the idea of pitching my first proper 5-figure project. I'm really pleased to say that I've been successful with the pitch. The estimates went in, the calls happened, and now we've got a project greenlit to the tune of £12,000, which is about $16,000, a substantially larger budget than any project I've worked on previously. The way I've approached it is something I've grown quite fond of, which is the gold, silver, bronze, good, better, best way of quoting. So rather than just send one lonely figure as a kind of take it or leave it option, you give them 3 options. And the top option, or the most expensive, is deliberately ambitious. It sets a project ceiling, and the psychology kind of makes the middle option, in contrast, look like it's really good value. And no one really wants to appear to be the really kind of stingy budget chooser. So it all kind of feeds into itself. I think it's probably pretty basic consumer psychology, so not something I can really claim as my own invention. But, you know, in spite of its simplicity, it's really effective. And in this case, the structure did exactly what I hoped it to. The client chose the £12,000 option, which for me is both a bit of a relief and also its own milestone, a signal that these bigger numbers aren't just sort of pie-in-the-sky spreadsheet folklore, but something that real clients are able to actually go for, with me. What also makes this more interesting is that it's a very different project to the work I normally do. A good chunk of my recent work has been in the world of high-end interiors, carefully designed spaces, beautiful homes, lots of texture and detail. I really enjoy that. It totally scratches the composed, design-led area of my brain. But it doesn't change the fact that the destination for these projects, no matter how high-end the subject matter, is always ultimately social media. And then there's a pretty familiar dynamic that goes a bit like, I make the thing, I get it to a place I'm really happy with, and then I work with the client-side marketing team to adjust it so that it fits their objectives. Often there's a decent amount of overlap between what they want and what I want. So it's not an adversarial process by any means. Having a fresh set of non-video eyes on a piece of work can actually be genuinely valuable. There have been plenty of times when feedback from someone who's a bit removed from the process has been really valuable and has made the piece of work stronger. They're usually thinking about campaign strategy, messaging, audience behavior, and all of that really matters. But also equally, there are notes that you can feel are pulling the piece away from its sharpest version and its full potential. Changes that make absolutely perfect sense from the marketing objectives point of view, but which I suppose creatively and aesthetically just knock the edge off. So you find yourself doing this balancing act. Make something you're proud of, respect the brief, keep the client happy, which is obviously 100% of the goal, and accept that the final exported delivered version might sit a couple of steps away that you could make if it was entirely up to you. This new project has a slightly different flavour. It's not in the interior space at all, for a start. It's a very different environment with a different audience and different emotional register. And it isn't just a we need something for social media project. The purpose feels broader and more ambitious, more story-driven, which in theory should translate to fewer of those small, can we just add, we need a call to action, end cards, all that kind of stuff. But kind of tweaks that just kind of like creep in to satisfy campaign objectives. And also in this one, I'm not just showing up as the video person to implement someone else's plan. I'm directing, so I'm the DOP, and I'm effectively running the whole project. So there's a lot more, I guess, creative skin in the game from my point of view. And that brings me on to the scope and ambition of it. I suppose one of the more exciting parts of being a filmmaker, at least for me, is the sense that you are constantly improving and developing as a practitioner of your craft. And sometimes that pressure to develop and improve comes from within, and sometimes, like this, it's an external force, so the project demands it. If everything you do all day, every day sits very comfortably within the envelopes of your capabilities, that just gets a bit dull. This project, already, even at this pretty embryonic stage, already feels like the kind of thing that's going to stretch me in lots of directions. The first area where it's making itself known is something I've managed to largely sidestep up until this point, which is score and soundtrack. I'm not at all musical, I don't play any instruments, don't let the banjo in the background fool you. I can't read music, and it's a miracle I can clap on time, which might make it sound like a bit of a problem when you start thinking seriously about building a score, but I've got quite a specific sound in mind for this. I keep coming back to the idea of the harmonium as an instrument. It's a slightly sort of wheezy, somber, reedy, almost, I suppose, strings-like tone. If you've seen Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love, it's the instrument that Adam Sandler's character rescues from the street right at the start. It has a very distinctive timbre, which I think is how you pronounce it, and it can be used in a way that feels almost hymnal and very evocative. That quality and that sort of modern hymn, half melancholic, half hopeful feeling looks like it could fit really well with this afloat-based piece of work. There's something in there in the relationship between putting out to sea and the kind of the hymnal component of living on the coast that I think could be explored quite nicely with a harmonium, because it's a bit like there's an element of the sort of church organ type sound to it, but writ small and more intimate, I think. I started off looking for existing pieces of music that kind of hit the right notes, no pun intended, and I couldn't quite find the right thing. There were a few pieces that were close or had, I don't know, the right instrument, but the mood or tempo was completely the wrong neck of the woods. And so at some point in this initial search, I had a pretty unhinged thought, which was, maybe this is my chance to try and make my own score. I mean, like anything else I do in video, you start off not being able to do it and then think, how hard can it be? Let's try. So perhaps this is it. Maybe it is feasible on this project to at least attempt it myself. And failing that, I know that I can probably bring someone in who would be able to do it. And so I started looking at music making options. I believe the term is instruments. The thing that's currently caught my eye is the Piano M by Rolly. As far as I can tell, it's basically a small MIDI instrument with accelerometer, keys, and a bit of fancy lighting. On paper, it looks like it might be a pretty straightforward input device for what I want to do, assuming that Rolly or someone has the equivalent of a harmonium sound pack that works with it. And so that's pretty exciting. This represents another way in which I might develop as a video maker. I definitely don't have any aspirations to become a fully fledged composer, but if I can get to the point where I can at least sketch out simple, usable scores using the instruments that I envision for my own work, that'd be a pretty great outcome. And it might be that I try this, make a horrendous noise, and very quickly realize that this is not, in fact, a possibility for me. But that would be okay too, I suppose. And at this early stage in the project, everything is really still on the table, which is a really fun and energizing place to be in. Zooming back out a bit, there's a thing that kind of sits quietly in the background of a lot of, I guess, mid-career creative work, which is you develop this growing catalogue of projects that you're quite proud of, but nevertheless represent a succession of small compromises that kind of prevent them from being the fully fledged pieces of work that they nearly were. The obvious solution is to actually go back and make those director's cuts, but once those projects are delivered, it's pretty hard to motivate oneself to go back unless someone's paying you to do so. So I don't know, maybe it's something I'll do one day. The timing of this is quite interesting as well, because it was only a month or so ago where I was talking to you about whether I should try and specialize in interiors to properly sort of put my cards on the table and say, this is what I do now. There's a lot of appeal in that. Clarity, recognizability, a neat niche that you can really develop in and become known for. And then almost as soon as I started saying that out loud, a couple of projects came in, the paddleboard company one, and now this, that couldn't be further away from the world of interiors. Different subjects, different environments, and a very different set of demands. And even though I have been leaning into interiors, these opportunities have still been cropping up. So I suppose as a data point, it sort of stands against the idea that by leaning into a niche, it excludes all other avenues. As always, hearing some of your experiences would be really valuable. I'd be really interested to know if you've had any sort of video career inflection points, moments where you can kind of clearly see a before X and then after X moment. It doesn't have to be some dramatic overnight success story. It might just be the first time you sent an invoice that felt uncomfortably high and the client just said, yeah, sure, no problem. It might be the first project you were trusted with a bigger team. I'd be interested to know how that went. Or something where you've been hired to make work in a completely new niche. That would be really interesting to hear about. And these shifts might not be quite so drastic sounding or feeling as what I'm describing. It can be much subtler, just a change in the kind of people who started getting in touch, or just a sort of a series of small nudges into a different realm of the kind of work you're being asked to make. So tales of career transitions, I genuinely love to read them in the comments. I'm starting to recognize more and more usernames now, which is really wonderful. And it feels a lot less like I'm just talking into the void, into my loaned Sony ZV-E1, which is it's got its back against the room wall. It feels much more like I'm actually talking to the community of people that surround me in the wider world, which is a joy. On the practical side, it's entirely possible that this big, high-budget job is a one-off. It'll be a very welcome one-off, but still, that's the reality of freelancing. However, like I said, I've got that other pretty sizable estimate out in the wild with a different client and just awaiting feedback and see which direction they want to take that. So it could be 2 one-off big projects. We'll see. And I'll keep you updated throughout. And there's also the gear side, which is kind of fun. A project like this gives me a legitimate reason to look at the A-cam setup I've got and see if there's any weaknesses or areas that need improving or adding to. I have to be pretty realistic and really sort of reflect on what does genuinely need improving, not just, what shiny thing can I add on. I can't have something that's going to be irritating or fail or, a pain in the butt on a cold January day at sea, rolling around on the deck of a small boat in the English Channel. And also any upgrades have to be something that can be delivered, tested and deployed in pretty good time. It's a pretty tight turnaround project. Delivery is scheduled for mid-February. We've got Christmas just around the corner, which will be a bit of downtime. And so I think that principal shooting will be early January. And in spite of the time scarcity component, I'll be bringing everybody along for the ride as much as is reasonably possible. The prep, the making of, and the delivery. One of the more interesting challenges is working out how best to capture behind the scenes on the deck of a rolling day boat without losing any kit or myself over the side. There's going to be a lot of problem solving to do there. Mounting options, weather protection, power, sound, how to stay out of the way of people doing difficult stuff in a hazardous environment, while still meaningfully capturing what's going on, in addition to the actual camera work I'm doing. But we'll work it out. All these things are solvable. And these are exactly the kind of problems that, me as a video maker and lifeboat helm, I think I'm probably pretty well positioned to work them out. In terms of references and influences for the project, one of the things I've been really enjoying diving into is behind the scenes material from Discovery's Deadliest Catch. Not because the work I'm going to make is going to be anything like that, but just because the production methods that have been used on that show are unbelievably fascinating. You've got camera teams operating in absolutely awful conditions, gear constantly under threat from weather and waves, and somehow they still manage to produce something that's coherent, cinematic, and emotionally engaging, in spite of all the chaos of that environment. The people making that show are absolute masters of their craft. Most of the BTS I've found so far has been little snippets on Instagram, but if I can find anything a bit more substantial on YouTube, I will link it in the description below, because it really is a masterclass in filmmaking in adversity. I think that's probably it for today's Open Channel. A bit of news, a reflection on my career and where this new piece of work might sit in it, and a look ahead into ways that the project might stretch or help me grow as a filmmaker, from cameras to sound and everything in between. There'll be something a bit more topic-driven and substantial on Thursday as usual, but in the meantime, if you've got your own story arc and career development anecdotes, I would absolutely love to hear them in the comments. They're always much more inspiring than my own. And if for whatever reason you haven't done so already, please subscribe. I'm Jack, whatever this is, I'm calling Western Approaches, brackets, Open Channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.